What's up? I'm NyVo. I got 4 headphones from different brands here, but they're all around the same price range. That's why I have them all together. Let's talk about them. We got the AKG K702, the Beyerdynamic DT 1990 Pro, the Hifiman XS, and the audio-technica ATH R70x. So yeah, all these around the same price range, and they all sound different. Let's talk about the flaws first. So the AKG K702 has the biggest flaws, in my opinion. The treble can be way too bright. It's just like there's too much treble energy. No matter what I put it on, it's just like the treble is very clean. So it's not like it's a bad treble. It's just that it's just too loud. And I guess I could EQ that, but I just don't like EQing anything. So the other thing is it's also pretty amp picky. It likes tubes, and it likes just really, really powerful solid states. So if you don't put it on anything powerful, then the bass gets really weak. So if you're not hearing bass, it's because your amp's too weak. Another thing is the sound stage is a little bit awkward to my ears. It goes left to right pretty far. It's a really wide stage, but it goes straight through your head, and it just kind of to me, it's an awkward feeling. It doesn't feel natural when it goes straight through my head like that. And on tubes, it does push out a bit away from my head, but so it does feel more natural that way. So actually on the RME 80i2, the DAC FS, it wasn't really doing that as much. It actually was kind of staging a little bit. So it just kind of depends on what you have it plugged into. Now, moving on to the DT 1990 Pro, its flaws, I'd say, again, this one is also a bit amp picky. And you wouldn't think so if you plug it into like a cheaper DAC amp, like a shit Magni or something, and like a shit stack. You're getting plenty of volume. You wouldn't think anything's missing. But once you actually plug it into something higher end, you start to realize that the headphone's actually pretty decent. So it does improve a lot. So that kind of makes it expensive, though, and kind of a hard option to recommend, because if you're spending that much on an amp, then usually you can just get better headphones, etc. So moving on to the XS, the flaws, I would say, I don't know if this is a flaw or not, but it doesn't, to my ears, scale past the KN IHA 6. So that's it's pretty expensive amp still, but to me that amp is the upper mid range, end, and so is the headphone. It's an upper mid range headphone, so it's not quite in I would say hi-fi land of headphones, but it is actually a really good upper mid headphone in my opinion. And I mentioned in the cryo headphone video I made that this is kind of like the best bang for the buck headphone that I'm kind of recommending right now. It doesn't do everything perfect, but it does a lot of things right. So another thing you could say is that the vocals can sound a little detached. So if you're used to dynamics, that might be a little bit weird, but I think if you listen to stuff like this for a while, you just get used to it, and your ears begin to adjust. So it's kind of like a thing that, if you go from this and back to dynamics, then it's going to sound bad that way. So it just depends what you're more used to. But definitely this one has the best bass out of everything here. And I do like the staging. It's like a kind of like a star-shaped stage that goes through your head in all directions. And I'm going to do a separate video just for this, just to explain that, because it's kind of a tricky one. So yeah, not too many flaws in the XS. Now the R70X, the flaws, it's just not that clear, I guess. It kind of is and kind of isn't. It's kind of a weird sounding headphone, but not in a really bad way. It's just different. It's kind of hard to describe. So let's talk about the pros. I think that'll be easier to talk about the R70X. Um, this is the best imaging headphone here, I would say, and it's doing it more in a, the K702 is really good left to right imaging, but the R70X goes in more directions with its imaging. It goes out to the sides and in front of you a little bit. So yeah, one of the better staging headphones here. But it's still not great, but I think in this budget range, it's not bad. I don't have it on the stands here today, but I should have the Verum 1. I do really like the stage on the Verum 1. So for this price range, to me, the winner for stage is actually Verum 1. For the XS, yeah, it just has a lot of things going right for the XS. Like I said, the bass is good. Everything is just kind of doing what it's supposed to do. And one of the coolest things about it that I'll talk about into the specific review for this is that is how the stage works, and it makes it a good option for gaming. And I was surprised that even though this stage as well, the R70X, I didn't really have much benefit from gaming, whereas this was a little bit step higher for gaming. So the XS, it's kind of the best overall headphone here. DT 1990 Pro, it images too, but in a weird way, and the stage is kind of also shaped a little bit weird too. So it is, I guess the good thing to say about it, it's fairly detailed, but so I mean we have some decent competition here. I think the XS might be the most detailed, but it's kind of hard to explain, but it leaves some gaps between the details, which means your brain has to fill in the gaps a little bit. So I think that's why vocals might sound better on like a R70X with a tube amp. It'll sound like there's more detail, even though there's actually not. So, man, there's a lot of motorcycles right now. Let's see, the K702, its pros. I would just say that the treble is detailed, but I don't like it because there's just too much treble. So I don't really have very many good things to say about the K702. This was my headphone. This specific one was my headphone maybe 3 years ago, and I didn't like it. I had a Zeos Shield amp, which was a Fostix HPA 4BL, and that was the one he recommended. And so I tried it with this, and it just made this headphone sound really bad, and there's no bass, and it's too weak. So that was before I knew much about amps. And so my friend that I gave this to him, because I didn't even want to, I'd feel bad selling it because I thought it sounded so bad. So I gave it to him, and he was asking me what headphone to buy, and I said, well, get the XS. He had $500, so I said, get the XS. So he did, and then once he got it, then he really liked the XS a lot more, and he sent this back to me just for this review. So thank you, Ultimate Guy. Yeah, so when I got it back, I tried it on the other amps like the 430HA and the IHA 6 and the RME, and yeah, it does sound better than it did on the HP A4BL. So the bass, there's definitely more bass now. And I could only get it to sound okay if I turn the X feed on the 430HA, but it still sounds a little weird. So just kind of really hard to recommend this headphone for anybody, in my opinion. What else to say? Let's just rank them real quick. Number 1, XS. Number 2, R70X. Number 3, DT 1990 Pro. Number 4, K702. And there you have it, folks. See ya.